His face is everywhere, but his story, buried. He was a doctor who became a killer, a rebel who became a symbol, the man who personally signed death sentences, now printed on T-shirts. But behind the image lies a story far more complex, far more controversial, and far more human than the myth would have you believe. In this episode, we dive into the life of one of history's most polarizing figures. From his early days in Argentina to his rise alongside Fidel Castro, his radical ideology, and his final moments in a Bolivian jungle. We'll explore the man, the myth, and the movement. And by the end, you might not see Che Guevara the same way again. But before the revolution, before the battles, we need to understand where it all began. Ernesto Guevara was born on June 14, 1928, in Rosario, Argentina, into a family that was both intellectual and politically active. His parents were left-leaning, open-minded, and encouraged critical thinking. He suffered from severe asthma, a condition that stayed with him all his life. But it never stopped him. If anything, it made him tougher, more determined. He studied medicine at the University of Buenos Aires, but found himself increasingly disillusioned with the clinical, detached nature of academia. In 1951, he embarked on a 9-month motorcycle journey across Latin America with a friend. They traveled through Argentina, Chile, Peru, Colombia, and Venezuela, witnessing firsthand the inequalities, injustices, and brutal poverty suffered by the working class. In the copper mines of Chile, he saw workers exploited and exhausted. In Peru, he treated leprosy patients who had been abandoned by society. He saw borders, governments, and economies that seemed to serve the few, not the many. That journey wasn't just a physical one. It was ideological, emotional, transformative. That's when Che the idealist began to become Che the revolutionary. That fire led him straight into the heart of revolution. In Mexico City in 1955, Guevara met Fidel Castro and his brother Raúl. He quickly joined their cause, the overthrow of the US-backed Cuban dictator Fulgencio Batista. Che wasn't just a fighter. He was a tactician, a motivator, and a master of guerrilla warfare. In the Sierra Maestra Mountains, he earned the respect and fear of his comrades. He was known for his discipline, his commitment, and his ruthlessness. By 1958, he led a column of rebel fighters in a critical campaign, the Battle of Santa Clara. The victory was decisive. Batista fled the country. And just like that, the revolution won. Guevara became a central figure in the new Cuban government. He oversaw agrarian reforms, pushed for education and healthcare reforms, and even served as president of the National Bank, despite having no background in economics. He signed the currency simply Che. But he wasn't just managing a new society, he was shaping it with a vision rooted in socialist ideals. So, what did Che believe? What drove him to abandon everything, again and again, in pursuit of revolution? Che Guevara believed that capitalism was inherently exploitative, that imperialism, especially American imperialism, was a global system of oppression, and that the only way to destroy it was through armed resistance. He promoted the idea of the new man, a citizen driven not by profit or personal gain, but by self-sacrifice, discipline, and solidarity with the oppressed. The true revolutionary is guided by great feelings of love. To him, love meant action, risk, sacrifice, even violence if necessary. His writings, like Guerrilla Warfare and Socialism and Man in Cuba, became revolutionary blueprints. They inspired rebels from Latin America, to Africa, to Southeast Asia. But his vision was strict, almost utopian. He believed people had to be shaped, even forced, into becoming morally superior. And that raised serious ethical questions. Che could have stayed in Cuba, powerful, respected, comfortable. But that wasn't his path. In 1965, he vanished from public life and re-emerged in the Congo. There he attempted to support a Marxist uprising, but faced cultural barriers, poor organization, and lack of commitment from local forces. He called the mission a failure. Yet he didn't give up. In 1966, under a false identity, Che entered Bolivia with the dream of sparking a continent-wide revolution. But this time, things were worse. He lacked local support. He was unfamiliar with the terrain, and the CIA was watching. Che believed the revolution could never die, but in the jungles of Bolivia, death was already waiting for him. The Bolivian army, backed by U.S. intelligence, tracked him for months. On October 8, 1967, he was wounded, captured, and taken to a schoolhouse. The next day, he was executed, without trial. His last words, "Shoot, coward, you are only going to kill a man," became a legend. Che Guevara's face is now one of the most reproduced images in history. To some, it's a symbol of hope. To others, hypocrisy. He remains a hero to many, especially in Latin America, where inequality and injustice still rage. He is celebrated for his courage, his sacrifice, his globalist vision of solidarity. But critics point to his role in executing political prisoners during the revolution, his dogmatic approach, and his willingness to suppress dissent. So which is he? A freedom fighter? Or a fanatic? The truth might be both. Che Guevara's story is filled with contradictions. He was driven by compassion, yet capable of cruelty. He preached justice, but embraced violence. And maybe that's what makes his story so human. From Rosario to Havana, from the Congo to Bolivia, he carried an unshakable belief that a better world was worth dying for. Whether you see him as a symbol, a warning, or both, his story forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about power, about revolution, and about what it really means to fight for change. If this story challenged what you thought you knew, or opened your eyes to the gray zone of history, hit subscribe. Because the past isn't black and white, and neither are the stories we tell.